Welcome to the FFS podcast, For Finance's Sake. The show that challenges the status quo of accountancy and business. We're here to break down barriers, remove the gatekeeping, and freely share the kind of practical advice and insider knowledge most people keep behind closed doors. Each episode, we ask the uncomfortable questions others shy away from, whether we're interviewing CFOs from major companies or tackling the everyday tax and business issues facing SMEs. No jargon, no fluff, just honest, insightful conversations to help you make smarter business decisions. I'm your host, Rachael Chadwick Harrison, and here with me today is my producer, Natalie Luckett.
Hello, Rachel.
Hello. Let's dive in. This is For Finance's Sake. Today, I'm really excited to welcome Fiona Roberts onto the podcast. Hi, Fiona.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
At the moment, you are the Finance Director of Finance Transformation at Platform X Communications. You've been at TalkTalk prior to that for over 8 years and were even there during the demerger. That's really interesting. And then you've also worked for Network Rail, Virgin Media, and even H.J. Heinz. What an amazing track record that you've got. How did you get into finance in the first place?
Well, possibly because I'm not a vet. So I think probably at the age of 15, I had that big ambition, become a vet, realised that I don't really like creepy crawlies, and as every great accountant does, I realised I'm actually quite good at maths. So quick flick through those career books. What do you do in life when you're good at maths? Accountancy. Structured my A-levels, my university degree about accounting and finance, and then I moved into a chartered accounting firm, starting off in North Wales, but then moving across to Manchester, which is where I'm from.
But we all have these ambitions when we're younger. I know my children all tell me they're going to be a YouTuber. And I say, sure you are.
Well, you must be an inspiration to them doing these podcasts then.
Maybe. I'm feeding the dream, unfortunately. It's not good. Looking back, did you take any big risks in your career?
I think probably my biggest risk in my career was actually more recently. So I've worked both in shared services finance, I've worked in tax, I've worked in commercial finance teams.
Completely different aspects of finance.
Yes, very different aspects, but gives me a really great foundation and knowledge for what I've done in the most recent years, which is actually finance transformation. And that was probably my biggest risk, because actually I don't come from project management background, and I'm not a systems specialist in terms of coding and doing the more technical aspects, but it's something that having that breadth of knowledge, be able to see beyond the blinkers of just one stakeholder, has really stood me what I now know in good stead for actually when I look at transformation within the business.
How did you find learning that new skill set in this role?
I've been very lucky working in the businesses that I have worked in, that they've invested in my career. What I really found that as I moved into the transformation space, that the culmination of working with people in change has really combined with the technical side of the accounting. So it's been a challenging journey, but mainly you're trying to manage multiple stakeholders to have the same goals. It's really about juggling and that ability to be able to coordinate and redeploy and pivot where you need to, because not every decision that you make right from the outset is what's you're going to land at the end of that programme.
100%, we've all been there. You touched upon the work ethic, and I'd be curious to know your opinion. Do you think that work ethic is something that can be taught, something that's instilled from a younger age? Can somebody who's got a poor work ethic later in life change? What's your opinion?
I think work ethic is dependent on circumstances. I think you have to want to achieve something. I think work ethic's one of those things that it's influenced by your environment, your own mindset, other things which are going on in your life, maybe sometimes, maybe a distraction to that. I think definitely the culture of an organisation can impact your work ethic, the people that you're surrounded by, if they're maybe not quite as engaged, even if you go in there with the best will in the world to be energetic and enthused, it will rub off on you. If you find that you are being maybe negatively influenced, what are the things that you can do to build your own energy and your own passion? Work's such a big proportion of your life that actually, why would you go in to waste all of those hours of your life? You may as well go in with passion and enthusiasm.
Definitely. So would you say that the role that you are in affects your work ethic if you've got more passion for it?
Maybe when you're ready for a role change, people start to maybe drift off a little bit. You see it through your colleagues, and then you come into that new business and it's exciting and it's shiny.
It's new and shiny. You can't wait to get going.
You can't wait to get in. And the real challenge is how do you maintain that good level of energy and enthusiasm throughout that? I think the other thing that's really impacted work ethic is actually COVID. I hate that word. It's such...
I know, and it feels like it was only just literally the other day 5 years since the first lockdown. And I think, was it really that long ago?
Yeah. And actually, if you sat in a bedroom by yourself, maybe working in the corner, how do you get enthused? How do you have that right work ethic? How do you keep your mind focused? And how's that going to impact our businesses and our country, the economy, in another 10, 15 years down the line?
I want to touch on something you alluded to earlier about, bad apples in the workplace and how they can affect work ethic. Yeah. Did you have any experience of managing any bad apples in any of your teams?
Yes, I probably have examples of that, but I think the person that stands out the most is someone that I recruited quite early on in my career. I was a new manager, I was still in my 20s, and I recruited a male member of my team. I interviewed with my then manager, who was also male, and that person, that manager, left between doing the recruitment and hiring this individual and then starting with the business. We tested it through the interview process a few times, saying, is there going to be a problem working for a female? There've been a few vibes. The answers came back, no, there's no problem there. And the first day, that certainly didn't translate into the reality from what they'd said in the interview. The first questions were, where's your manager? I thought I'd really be working for them.
That's quite worrying, isn't it?
That was very worrying, and certainly throughout some management challenges within that relationship. We were a not dissimilar age. I think they really felt that they should have been my manager.
Looking back, would you still have hired that person?
No.
So you had all those qualifications and the relevant experience, yet the respect isn't there. How do you deal with that?
I think over time, respect, no matter how old you are, is something that's earned. It's in your characteristics, your behaviours, the person that you want to be and the person that you don't want to be. And I think for me, it's about looking at the people that I've worked alongside over the years and picking out those best people and trying to learn from them and learn the skills. I think it's about being genuine and honest and trying to prove to the teams and the individuals that you don't have an ulterior motive, that you're there to support them and that you're there to bring them on and to develop them as much as make your own way in life and to achieve things. So I think for me, bring people along with you and earn the respect.
I think you cope with it a lot better than I did. I used to go home in tears. We can laugh about it now. You're right about what you say about the respect has to be earned, and I found that I had to prove myself to get the respect. But I also found if a man walked into a position, it was like he got the respect straight away. And unfortunately, we're here in 2025, and I don't feel like attitudes have changed much.
Presumption that if you're male,
you know what you're doing.
That you know what you're doing, that you've made it. If I was going to give myself one piece of advice when I was younger, I think it would definitely be to believe in myself more. Even to this day, I feel like I need to prove that I can do a job before I go in and get that job, if you know what I mean.
Exactly, and it's classic and maybe overused these days, but imposter syndrome, but it is so real.
Have a bit of confidence to believe that you're going to be able to do something that you maybe haven't done up until now. The ability to learn that you have to do to be able to move through your career is there.
Speaking of learning on the job, well, great leaders drive great change. What's the most innovative thing you've implemented in your role?
So we had a big business problem to really address and to fix. What we'd found was that through a series of restructures, mergers work, some disposals within the business, we were working with more and more fragmented systems. The processes were becoming out of date, and we have multiple ways of working as we ingested the working practices of different businesses. So really, it was about creating this vision for not just a system, but actually end-to-end finance. How could we fix our business processes to generate efficiencies and give real business insight that deliver growth? And that meant that we had to start all the way from our chart of accounts and the data and how we collected it, through to the systems that we use, and then to actually how do you output the reporting and get those business insights. Because at the end of the day, as a finance team, we're not here just to move numbers about, as fun as it may be. We're really here to help businesses thrive and to grow. So we ultimately combined the efforts of 4 different systems, reducing it into 2 new systems. And then we also introduced a different piece of technology that helped us with the month-end close. So we had to bring together 4 different systems that we already used internally, plus shut down the systems of the different organisations that we'd purchased. And then we replaced it with 2 different systems that were interconnected. And then
much simpler.
Much simpler. However, to get all of the data flowing without errors
and losing that valid information that people need.
Absolutely. We also had to create 17 different integration points.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Making sure that all of that data stays synced and you get one version of the truth all the time. But for me, this was a business change project supported by technology.
Have you ever had a moment where you thought, oh my God, this is going to fail, but it actually worked?
Yes, definitely. So halfway through our big transformation programme, we got to the day where the system's ready for systems integration testing. That means it's all built.
We're just going to switch the switch on.
Yeah, you just need to check it's built the way that you expected it to be.
So everything else is still working in the background. This is just a test environment that we're turning on.
Just a test environment.
Sandbox mode.
Yeah, well, it's a big milestone in any project. The day that you think that you're ready to test means that
we're pretty close.
We're pretty close. Yeah. We've got half a chance of hitting that deadline.
And we're going to find any bugs and sort things out. Yeah. Oh my God, what happened when you turned it on?
Nothing. We didn't turn it on because the day that we were due to turn on, the business announced it was demerging. No, there was one thing that our system integrating partner had talked to us about. Whatever you do, don't restructure your business whilst we're building and implementing the system.
Oh my God.
And we went for full-on demerger. So our system integration day really looked like us getting around a very big table and bringing all the project team together to look at how we could pivot what we were doing, what were going to be the redesign considerations, how did we facilitate 2 organisations that still ultimately needed to be consolidated but needed to operate as completely different operating entities within that same system. So
it's like starting from scratch in some ways, really.
Yeah, we had to go back and look at every single design decision that we'd had, and we still needed to hit go live date.
No, the date wasn't moved.
The date wasn't moved because it was a facilitator to what they'd actually just announced.
Right.
So actually our ability to be able to really produce timely financial results would have been severely impacted through the systems that we needed to move across. They just didn't have the flexibility. So now the burning platform had just got a little bit hotter.
Just a tad.
Just a tad hotter. And we were thrown into this sort of disarray in terms of, okay, is this system going to work for us? So we went back, we looked at our design principles, we looked at how we delivered. So we looked at moving the project from being a one-phase big bang into a two-phase delivery. So what did we absolutely need to do to be able to operate on day one so that we had a functional system that could stand up to having results that could be audited? But also, what could we then build in as continuous improvement in the second phase of delivery? So it changed our approach, it changed our mindset. And on top of that, because we had two operational businesses, we also had to split our supplier base. So we'd operated with a single supplier base. Now, that was outside of the scope of the team who were running the demerger project, but it was an absolute critical dependency for a finance system where you need to be able to interact and
someone's got
suppliers.
to go do that admin and contact every supplier and say, we need 2 accounts. One question, did you hit the go live date?
We did hit the go live date.
Wow, that is impressive. With all those changes going on and you still managed to hit the go live date. Fantastic.
A bit of determination and tenacity went into that one, and some really great members of my team who supported along the way.
So what's been your biggest professional challenge and how did you overcome it?
Being a working mum through my career, I'm sure that... actually, let me change that.
Okay.
Being a working parent. Because I think the challenge of being a working parent, you must have got it, mum guilt.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
110%.
So I think the biggest challenge is trying to be able to balance all of that. I've got some fantastic fathers in my team at the moment who are facing those challenges of having new babies and waking up in the middle of the night.
It's nice to hear.
Yeah, and they're great parents. They love the kids so much. But actually they've got all those same problems that you have whether you're a working mother or a working father or a working guardian.
True equality will come when we have a similar amount of men that go off as women and when the parental responsibility gets shared more equally.
Whether you are inspiring your children by being at home with them and giving them that one-to-one time, that is no less or no more valuable than the working parent who is inspiring them to maybe fulfil a dream. So I think no matter who you are, remember that there's no right or wrong answer. There's just different ways of getting there.
I love your comparison there, that as the working mother you can inspire your children to go to work and to have a career and show them that you can have both. And it does have to be balanced. Sometimes your job has to come first and sometimes your children come first, and that really depends on what's going on in your life. It's just prioritising at the end of the day, isn't it? But having a supportive employer is definitely key to that.
Yeah, definitely.
I wonder, how is our government just not balancing the books when other governments seem to be, or at least appear to be, doing it well?
I think it's a long-term systemic issue. I mean, this government's been in government for a relatively short period of time, and that fiscal deficit is something that's not happened overnight. Mm-hmm. I think they've come in to try to fix a problem. I think political systems, though, they work on a 4 to 5 year cycle, and to make radical change is incredibly difficult. With each government coming in, to get elected, you have to make populist decisions, and therefore you get short-term decision making that perpetuates a problem over time, and I don't think it's something that can be fixed overnight. Maybe the policies that we see at the moment, I'd really like to see a focus on education. I really believe that education is everyone's path to equality.
A ticket to equality.
Yeah, a ticket to equality. And I think having that for everyone, I think we talk about VAT on private schools, but why do people feel the need to enter the private school system in the first place if something's not failing within that system? And I don't think it's right to penalise individuals within that system because it pushes them back into an already overburdened state system. And I'm not sure that the economics work when you're trying to earn the money from the VAT, but actually you're putting more pressure on the state system. But I think really I'd like to see a focus on education, a focus on what are the roles that we need in society in the future. I think it's time to reevaluate where technology, artificial intelligence is taking society. It's like its own industrial revolution, and it's going to change the jobs of the future, and we need to make sure that education keeps up with that. Otherwise we're going to have problems 50, 60 years down the line.
I've got to admit, I've started spoiling my ballots. I'm still voting. I'm making my point. I just feel like I don't trust any of the politicians anymore. I don't trust them to deliver on what they say, and therefore how can I back any of them? So until I see people who stand for wanting to make this country brilliant, I just don't want to support any of them. If you weren't in finance, what would you be doing?
Oh, I'd definitely be a forensic pathologist. I love a bit of silent witness. I'm pretty sure it's not like that in real life, though. But Amelia Fox, she's got me hooked.
Brilliant. What's the worst piece of financial advice you've ever heard?
Oh, I read it on LinkedIn a few weeks ago. There was this guy saying that no one should pay into pensions.
Oh, my God.
And I was like, seriously? As an investor, and okay, I think there's always a bit, have fun now, but not paying into a pension at all. Personal circumstance determines whether you should have a pension.
Very much so. Don't plan for the future. What was his angle? Did he think the apocalypse was coming?
I think it was more all to do with self-investment. You could make more, but I think he forgot about the fact that as an employee, your employer will put into your pension. And
yeah, it's a freebie. You've got to take that up.
Personal capability to actually grow your own wealth is...
I've seen a few nuts out there who are saying, don't save, don't buy property, the world is going to end. But this guy just reckons you can make more otherwise.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. If you had to explain to a 5-year-old in one sentence what you do, what would you say?
Well, I would be Ryder from Paw Patrol. And my mission would be to protect business, to find better and faster ways to track my money, and to make smart choices so that I can buy the toys that I want.
What's your guilty pleasure purchase? Something that goes against everything you know you should do, but you just can't resist.
Well, outside of the COVID purchase of a little hot tub for the corner of my garden,
which
was ridiculous.
Most people did it. My husband banned me.
My husband should probably have banned me. But I think my true guilty pleasure has got to be Lurpak, hasn't it? I mean, we all know how expensive it is. We all know there's other butters available, which I'm sure are all very nice. Oh, but I love a bit of Lurpak. And so does my cat, Seth. Every morning, mine's spread on my toast, and Seth gets his little teaspoon of Lurpak.
Brilliant. Finally, if you could swap jobs with any finance leader in the world for a whole week, who would it be and why?
I'm going to go with Julian Kelly from the NHS.
Ah.
Because actually, coming back to what you said before, that was like we rehearsed it, wasn't it? But we've never discussed that before. But actually, I would love a week in Julian's shoes. I'd love to do something where I was feeling like I was contributing to the greater good, and to look at how I could really make an impact on an institution that I think most people in this country love and want to see longevity into the future.
I think that's a fantastic answer. I would love that job too. Just to understand it and be able to get an outsider's opinion of what's wrong. Because I've always had this theory that there's too many fat cats in there and there's corruption. And I'd like to see it for myself and find out if it's true.
I'm pretty certain that 1 week into his job I'm going to get imposter syndrome.
Brilliant.
Or maybe 1 hour.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. This conversation has been an absolute delight, and I know you travelled a fair while to get here, so massively appreciated.
Thank you for having me. I've really enjoyed chatting to you. It's been very fun.
Thank you very much, and goodbye, listeners. Thank you for tuning in to our latest episode of FFS. If you learned something, that's great. If you're mad, that's even better. See you next week on For Finance's Sake. Just as a reminder, if you have a business and you have something to say, or you're a CFO with a story to tell, come on the podcast and enlighten our listeners. Just get in touch by emailing us at podcast@chadwickaccountants.co.uk. If you're enjoying the podcast, make sure to hit follow so you never miss an episode. We're on all the major platforms. And for even more insights, behind-the-scenes content and bite-sized advice, connect with us on social media. You'll find us on LinkedIn, Instagram and Facebook. Just search for Chadwick Accountants.